Carden, are you
I
familiar?
think this is completely related.
Are you familiar with the concept of like a news dump, like a Friday news dump? Ever heard of that?
Cody, we both worked at a radio station that did political news.
Okay.
Yes, I know exactly what a Friday news dump is.
I was asking the question for different reasons, right? So anyway, generally speaking, news and organizations people will send their press releases or stories that are unfavorable to be released and dropped in the news on a Friday because no one's watching the news Friday at 5:30.
Yeah.
Now Thursday at 5:30, Tuesday at 5:30, but they do it on purpose. Anyway, the reason why I bring it up, unrelated right now, I bring it up for a reason. So I think this is on the 27th. So on the 27th of November, we're going back a few days here. A community groups write an open letter to MSNBC president about unfair coverage of Andrew Yang, the 2020 presidential candidate. I believe this is done by the Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs, but it's signed on by a bunch of different organizations. They mention right here. A coalition of 23 community nonprofit organizations representing Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders released an open letter to MSNBC President Phil. Oh, sorry. Let me get to the actual letter. So it says, Dear Mr. Griffin, under your leadership, MSNBC has become one of America's most influential cable news networks and attracts hundreds of millions of viewers. Congratulations on hosting the 5th Democratic debate, where community nonprofit organizations that do not intend to support or oppose any particular candidate but would like to raise our concerns and register our displeasure about your network's unfair treatment of Mr. Andrew Yang, the first Asian American man to run for president as a Democrat in our nation's history. So they'll go through all of this in the link so you guys can read, or in the description, so you guys can read all of it. But they do things here like they cite the big thing right here. They say MSNBC moderators did not let Mr. Yang speak for the first 32 minutes of the 2-hour debate. And then CNN reported Mr. Yang only received 6.8 minutes of speaking time, barely over half the time Warren spoke. In addition, it's reported MSNBC left Mr. Yang out 15 times in his coverage of presidential candidates, while including others who poll lower. I don't want to rehash this too much.
But it was all female, therefore it was good.
But we've all
unimpeachable.
We've all gone through. We've all seen that MSNBC has left Yang off stuff. That he was. I mean, I'm not going to run through the MSNBC Yang beef. We've been doing it multiple times. But so yeah, I'll go through here. Here's the open letter. At the end of the letter, they say, we request that MSNBC give all presidential candidates fair coverage. Wow, what a bold request. Hey, news, can you give all, isn't that crazy? It's the world we live in. And then investigate the root causes of the incidents listed above about Andrew Yang and take corrective stances. Yes, figure out why this has happened 16 times. I agree. And again, signed on by multiple organizations.
Wow, look at that, though.
It's like 20-something. And again, carbon copy to Brian Roberts, CEO of Comcast, as well as the 5th debate moderators. But I'm not as interested in them because they're employees. They don't.
Yeah.
They have a boss who tells them what to do, unfortunately. So, reason why I went through that. One, because it shows that the heat is being turned up on MSNBC. More people are noticing what's going on. But the Comcast CEO, actually, I'll see if I can show you guys the URL on this. The URL on this is corporate.comcast.com news information. This is the corporate Comcast thing, and it's a message from Comcast chairman and CEO Brian Roberts. It says at Comcast, diversity has always been and continues to be an important part of our culture. Since my father founded the company more than 50 years ago in Tupelo, Massachusetts? No, it's MA. Tupelo,
yeah.
Mississippi?
No, that's Missouri.
Missouri, sorry.
Yeah, MS is Missouri.
You got to admit, all of those got an M and an S in them anyway.
Well, there's Michigan, there's Missouri, there's Minnesota.
Yeah.
There's a lot of MIs.
Geography and math are the two things I am
Okay.
Anyway, though, we have been committed to promoting and increasing diversity in our leadership, workforce, purchasing decisions, programming, and community investment. Diversity and inclusion is not an initiative or program with an expiration date. It's the right thing to do and also a core principle for the way we do business. Now, in a vacuum, it's a pretty whatever PR statement, right? But you have to wonder why. Oh, sorry. I forgot to tell you guys. This was posted on the CNN website, I believe on the 28th of November, which would be Thanksgiving. So remember going back talking about Friday news dumps. Is Thanksgiving, or if it was done on Thursday night, is Thanksgiving Eve a news dump? You think that's when everyone's gathered around?
Dude,
reading the newspaper? You think people pick up their paper? Oh, I can't wait to get the Thanksgiving edition of the Times so I can find out what happened in the media section today.
I think that is quite possibly in America one of the days in which it has to be one of the bottom 3 days of media engagement. By the way, I correct myself in real time. Tupelo, Missouri did not sound right as it rolled off my tongue. I Googled it really fast. Yeah, duh. It's Tupelo, Mississippi.
Yeah, MS. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
I'm a bonehead.
I was like, wait a minute. MS isn't in Mississippi? That's crazy.
Yeah,
It should be.
No, it is Mississippi. It's just, I know that, like, for example, I have family in Arkansas. And so when people see the AR, they think, oh, it's Arizona. It's like, no, Arizona is AZ. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, keep going.
Sorry, yeah, but I want to get to some other stuff that was the Inquisitor piece mentions. They bring up a fair and accuracy and reporting report that previously noted that Comcast is one of the biggest lobbying spenders in Washington. Why is that allowed? Why are you allowed to have a news network and be one of the largest whatever? Anyway, back in April, the nonprofit organization noted that most of the network's positive coverage is focused on presidential candidate Joe Biden before and after he announced his presidential run. FAIR also noted that Comcast is considered a regional monopoly where they operate as they don't face competition, similar to ISPs like Verizon and AT&T. Later in the report, FAIR claimed that even before Comcast acquired MSNBC, the network had a history of tacking to the right. Interesting. And distinct reluctance to challenge entrenched corporate interests. It's almost like one of those things changed and the other didn't. No, not weird.
Yeah.
It's almost like this was always. It's almost like reluctance to challenge entrenched corporate interests is the constant, in which direction you're biased and politically isn't. That change, that's fluid. Am I biased to the corporate interests? Always. Am I biased to Democrats? It depends. Biased to Republicans? It depends. Depends when you ask me. Corporate interests? Always, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, the reason I want to talk about this is because this is, I thought it was funny. I mean, obviously, I saw this when it was posted on the 28th. I try to stay up on this, but talking to people, I realized, like, one, by the way, no flame. I'm not accusing the Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs of doing this, but kind of goes both ways. 3 Eastern, the day before Thanksgiving in America, no one's going to see it. I'm sorry. It's going to get buried. And it did. No one even saw this letter. I only know about it because I read this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I mean, multiple, I think it's 20 plus, 23. I should have said it. 23 organizations signed on. You know what I mean? It's like, and you notice from across the country. We have the multiple chapters of this organization, as well as where's a couple other more like regional ones. We have Seattle, Houston, Minnesota, Monterey Bay, Ohio, San Diego, like Westlake. I mean,
there is a conundrum though. It's a difficult situation though, because if you wait until Thanksgiving's over and Black Friday's over, and then
today is 5 days
Saturday's over, and then Cyber Monday's over, you're releasing a letter that's a week late.
Well, how about you can put it on Black Friday, just not the day before Thanksgiving?
Okay.
I mean, it's the same thing. Same reason why no one knows that Comcast had this weird pseudo non-apology. He didn't apologize. He just said diversity has always been a continued. It actually sounds like it sounds to me more like a refutation of any misdoings. That they said, diversity's always been important and will continue to be. So I don't know why you're saying that we're not being diverse enough.
Jeez.
The fact that this was released essentially on Thanksgiving or right before Thanksgiving, I mean, again, part of that was because it was in response to a letter that was drafted to them the day before, but it's just crazy, man. Like this is going to largely go completely unnoticed because of when it was published. The fact that MSNBC, all they did is, I love that it's literally corporate.comcast.com is where this is published.
Yeah.
No date on it, nothing. It's just this meaningless blurb. I'm surprised people even noticed it, really. Like, why was... This is kind of like I said, there's no date, there's no time, there's no nothing, there's no reference of what they're talking about. It just literally says a message from Comcast chairman and CEO Brian L. Roberts. And it's a small paragraph where he basically...
The corporatism is palpable.
But I read this as a refutation. I read this as him saying, we've done nothing wrong here.
Oh, of course they don't think they've done anything wrong.
But he says diversity and inclusion... It always has been and continues to be important, and it's something we always do, and it's the right thing to do. But they're basically saying, and again, that's why you don't say what it's in response to.
But they've said nothing.
Yeah.
Look, they've literally, they just use a bunch of euphemisms and phrases that appease the social left. They use the word diversity with a big D as though it's some big, awesome, special God to be worshipped. Okay. they didn't capitalize the D. Oh yeah. Well, okay.
To
Sorry.
start
That's the beginning
sentences,
of
you
the sentence,
capitalize
yeah.
words.
Sorry, I was glancing at the screen. I apologize. But anyway, it's just they said a whole lot of nothing and said a very flowery F you and go away. Okay. And this really speaks to the reason why Bernie Sanders was popular in 2016. The reason why Donald Trump was popular in 2016 is because people are really tired of this corporatism. And there's only one party that's really attacking corporatism right now. It's the Republican Party. And they're not even doing that good of a job of it. Anything that has gotten done by Republicans in the past
That's a bizarre.
year.
That's a really bizarre. thing
No,
to
anything
assert.
that's been done by
That's a
Republicans in
really
the past
bizarre thing to assert.
past year has been mostly K Street interests. The Democrats, I think, are fairly called the do-nothing Democrats. And the people are still left with all the problems that government is supposed to solve and coping with them. And it creates a lot of distrust in government, a lot of distrust in media, and it speaks to what we said in the last segment. The reason why Andrew Yang is so able to get so many of these small donations from so many people is because there are people that are out there hurting and they actually believe that he will live up to his promise. You know what I'm saying? And I think that says a lot about his candidacy. And I also think it's a huge indictment of our system right now. Like, there is a reason why drain the swamp was a slogan that worked in 2016. And we're only 3 years out of that right now? Yeah. And people don't feel like it's drained, and Donald's still able to go out there. You notice how I speak on a first name basis with our president. He's still able to go out there and say, hey, I'm trying. It's kind of working, but the whole system's against me. So, I mean, this corporatism has to go. The only way I see it going is being able to compete against it. And that's why I think channels like ours, channels like all these other smaller ones in the YouTube channels are so important, because there's only one thing you can do with a corporation, and that's compete against it. You can't legislate it away.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I just think it's the next stage. And I look at this as less to do with political parties and corporatism. It's just more just MSNBC's beef with Andrew Yang is heating up. That's what I see it as. The beef is heating up.
Okay.
They don't want you to know. They want to do weird stuff like not even mention anything and just release it on Thanksgiving Day with no real quoting. Thankfully, this person had Inquisitor noticed. Otherwise, I gotta admit, guys, I'm not chilling on the corporate part of Comcast website very often. I would have not noticed this. And again, like all you could say is that it seems to be a response because it comes out of nowhere a day after a letter was written to him signed by 23 organizations accusing them of slighting a Asian candidate. So, if it isn't in response, then wow, man. You know what? In defense of Comcast, I believe that these awful soulless companies would do something like schedule this to post 3 months in advance because they just don't care and it's just dumb stuff they post and they don't mean any of this anyway. I mean, if you think about it, if you don't mean or intend to stand behind what you say, who cares when you post it or what it says?
Yeah.
I don't mean any of this. So if that's what MSC and Comcast, which I'm assuming most corporations do, because like we said, when MSNBC first acquired Comcast, it seemed that they potentially, I don't know, man. I don't want to get too lost in it. It was really interesting, and I wanted to note, as MSNBC, the war is heating up between MSNBC and Andrew Yang. We now have, like I said, the Asian Pacific Islander and American Public Affairs organization getting 23 groups together to sign an open letter to Comcast CEO Brian Roberts, who in return writes this bizarre, like I said, it sounds like he's refuting what they're saying. And it sounds like, according to Comcast, chairman and CEO and son of founder of Comcast, Robert Sr., I would imagine he wouldn't say nothing wrong. But I don't know. Very interesting. I just wanted to make sure this was something that you guys knew happened. A lot of people didn't see this because when it went down, like I said, I know Yang does have a lot of international people in other countries, but in America, the country does kind of stop for Thanksgiving, and that was when a lot of this stuff was coming out. So a lot of this news got missed. I wanted to make sure you guys saw that. And that's all I got to say about that. Anything else? Any more dunking on Comcast? Yeah.
I love your terminology, a soulless corporation.
They are, man.
There's a reason why you have to fill out a form that says a fictitious identity.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
They used to always trip me out, man, when I read like the classifieds in the back, and it's like application for like fictitious. Like, what does this mean? And someone's like, oh, it's just a business name.
Yeah.
Like, well, why do they frame it like that? Well, I also love, again, I'm not gonna let them get away with this. Right before we wrap up, one more time, just in case anyone missed anyone just joining us for whatever reason. According to the Fairness and Accuracy Reporting Organization, Comcast is one of the biggest lobby spenders in Washington, and they're also a regional monopoly. So,
well, yeah,
I love them, man. I love Comcast and these giant corporations.
And I also, I'm a huge capitalist. Competition is basically an integral aspect of the capitalist identity. And with these big media companies, I'm sorry, there isn't competition. I moved into my apartment complex and I wanted to bring my Time Warner cable with me, and guess what? I couldn't. I was like, what? And when I was calling up Time Warner Cable, they said, oh yeah, this address, your apartment complex has a deal with AT&T. You can only get AT&T there. And so I'm like, if I can't choose who I want to be my vendor, AT&T and Comcast aren't really competing. They're just mafiosos with territories.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so this idea that because there's multiple companies that there's competition is an absolute farce. And people start sensing this after a while and realize that it is a farce. It's like we used to have the Sweet 16 until, Obama bailed out the banks and made it the great, powerful Final Four. And instead of having 16 smaller banks that are competing for my business, now all of them agree that, an overdraft charge is $45. You know what I'm saying? Oh, and none of us are going to pay anything in our CD accounts, but we'll charge 7% for pretty much anything we want, and it creates these glass ceilings per se of people succeeding where there was chances and opportunity before. And it's because of this corporatism, which is, I think, probably, especially as manifest in the corporate media, the average American's biggest frustration right now. Mm-hmm. I think the average American's biggest frustration is somehow related to crony capitalist corporatism in America. So anyway, let's keep going.